Alright, I'm going to start off by apologizing a bit for this video. I didn't intend to make it, but I felt it needed answers because I do get some blowback from things that I have in group advertisements. I don't normally go on a political or semi-political kick with my things, but some people ask me why I put LGBT friendly or LGBT welcome in my some of my advertisements, and there's some reasons for that. Um, I'm not the type of person to be all total activist about many things. I'm not walking around with a bunch of buttons or anything. And I understand why some people are like that. That's perfectly fine. But I thought I'd just go touch on some things. If this isn't your cup of tea, I totally understand. But I wanted to have something to link it to people that wanted a more firm answer. So just to get started here. Okay, so my typical advertisement I've been using recently, I do change it. Put the handprint in there because I find putting graphics does pull. But I also put an LGBT plus friendly thing in there to make certain things clear. Keep in mind, I also have other rules. I put no jerks, trolls, or edge lords. I mean, I could also say no hate speech, but that usually falls within all of that. Semi mature, you know that there's at least some kind of social etiquette. Um, in games and whatnot. And this can be a problem when somebody is more 12 or 13 and whatnot. But I'm pretty inclusive when it comes to a lot of things, even along ages. I've played with plenty of kids that are like 12, 13. They were perfectly fine. So I don't usually have rules with that. I do have the capacity to realize that I'm speaking around a 12 year old and then not to go into like graphically sexual or whatever. Um, I'm occasionally run children in real life. So all right. Anyways, getting on that. So why put this? Some people would say I'm throwing my politics into a game that isn't political. Of course, that's the argument for everything. Somebody says, "Well, I'm gay," or they just say, "Oh, yeah, me and my boyfriend are going to the store." They said, "No, you mean politics. There's a new politics rule here." Most people seem to assume that means I'm gay, bi, pansexual, or what I'd call worse because people are homophobic or transphobic enough to equate anything LGBT with at least pederasty, if not full on pedophilia or a number of other things. Um, and then some people are just as ignorant, just to assume if I was straight, then why would I include that stuff? Okay. Well, the big reason is because LGBT, that lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, occasionally intersexual, although that's a more rare thing, and a number of other things that deviate from the traditional norm of sexual and gender identity, it's a big problem on the internet, and it's a big problem in gaming communities. That problem varies from community to community. Some communities are more open to that, and some like it's about strategy or military shooters. I'll give you an idea where a lot of the politics lie. We're currently in a really big conservative backlash against this tolerance to a point where the amount of people that are voicing their tolerance and support is going way down, especially in the United States. And there's plenty of countries where being gay just gets you thrown off the roof of a building. Um, well, at least one of the developers, I think Lavender, CJ, seems to be part of the LGBT community. I don't know the specifics of their story. And Phasmophobia, both the game and the Discord, have publicly supported Pride Month. They put up pride flags during Pride Month and other stuff. So it seems like that kind of thing is important to the community and to the Discord specifically and the developers. Well, why don't I list a long list of things? You know, religion, class, etc. I've generally identified LGBT to be probably the most in need of that support. In most gaming communities, again, this does vary from community to community. I've seen problems with people being anti-Semitic, Islamophobic, anti-Christian, anti-religious, and a lot of things. Um, Mockery of comments based on class, both for being in college or not being. I mean, the list goes on, but the most in my last 5 years that I've run into is homophobic and transphobic stuff. Religious intolerance is kind of a rare thing. I mean, there's a lot of anti-Muslim sentiment among conservative gamers, and most of the time, I mean, you're far more likely to run into a conservative Christian than in whatever. Find entire communities based around being anti-religious and voicing that sentiment stuff, it's kind of rare, especially bigger communities. Um, there are stuff like that. Yeah, I find it. So yeah, generally, if somebody's being a jerk or they're using hate speech or hateful attitudes in general, yeah, I'll just get rid of them. I don't really care what they're hating up against per se. And then I may share certain political views or whatever, but even then, this is not the place for that. Um, yeah, I've actually gotten this one. If you are pro LGBT, you are anti straight. Well, this question just answers to why we need friendly communities. If you're asking this question, and there's plenty of people who seem to believe LGBT and whatnot, and their supporters are just anti-straight, anti-normal, if not part of some vast conspiracy to wipe out like the white race or black race or whatever to reduce the birth rate. I mean, it's crazy. There's some crazy conspiracy theories. You hear it from Alex Jones. You hear it from a lot of people. Um, I'll admit there are some LGBT communities I've been in here to go way too far and they reject straights or they reject people that aren't even a certain way. Gatekeeping is a big problem in any community, any identity. But the vast majority of ones, even ones that really threw it out there, like just covered in sprinkles and rainbows or whatever, not that hostile, generally speaking. So only get hostile when somebody gets hostile to them. Again, this is in my experience too. I'll be fair with that. Intolerance for intolerance is wrong. I've even made this argument sometimes. But the idea of bigotry originally was you were intolerant to other ways of thinking, other politics, at a time when people were split between like divine right monarchy versus the early ideas of a constitutional monarchy or republic or democracy, and the idea that you were just completely intolerant to open yourself up to any other kind of thinking. But keep in mind, historically, the people having these arguments had everything else in common. They were all straight, they were white, or whatever religion. They were probably all Christians, if not specifically Catholic or Protestant within nationality. Everything else was common except one little tiny difference on opinion. And that's where the idea of bigotry originally came from. Um, Often people who are really intolerant want to actively harm others who are supportive of difference or people who are different. Again, if they're anti-LGBT, they may equate it with pedophilia and they think they're stopping child molesters. Um, and no amount of evidence to the contrary will make them think there's been people who have murdered people on that idea. So um, your constitutional rights don't really restrict private associations in any country. I know it varies and there's specifics, um, but yeah. Anyways, going back to the idea, I'm not the one setting this rule. The Discord itself sets the rule. The company that makes the game set these rules. I'm pretty much just enforcing something that's already there. I'm making it abundantly clear in my one to dissuade anybody from joining my game and thinking that doesn't apply to them. Well, yeah, I know that probably half the world, more than half the world, being gay or being anything but a certain whatever just gets you thrown off the roof of a building or whatever. Even countries aren't blatantly Muslim or whatever, China, for example, um, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I get that, but you're probably already not paying attention to the fact that many other restrictions by your country's laws, if you're keeping to your country's really strict laws, the fact that you're playing an occult themed video game probably is illegal to itself and will probably get you thrown off the same roof. I will make it clear that I personally believe in the Western ideals of human rights. Even if I'm an American, yeah, I know my country doesn't exactly always follow that, but I still support it. Um, Discord and myself, we're in the United States. Kinetics is in the UK. We have laws that back all this stuff up more or less. Um, but yeah, if you're still at that point, well, find a Discord or community that caters to your beliefs, to your country. There's plenty of them. I can probably list several really conservative Muslims ones where probably don't even allow women in them, or conservative Christian ones. They're a dime a dozen. If you're unhappy just because everybody, and I know that argument can be made in reverse, but believe it or not, there's far more conservatives really pushing their own communities than anybody else as part of the backlash. But yeah, just find a Discord that matches. Maybe ask around. I mean, you can probably find a Discord that lets you get away with literally anything. Trust me, I've seen them. They're pretty disturbing. So, well, what does it mean, anyways? I mean, that's just a basic thing in an advertisement. What does that mean to me or mean to somebody else? Different ideas. Well, the first thing is no hate speech. Even if it's done in a passive aggressive way, you're like, "I was just joking, man." That includes like slurs, even as jokes. In some cases, I know that saying things like "gay" or "retard" is just part of the speech. Um, I've I mean, I remember when I used to say those things all the time because everybody was saying them. I don't anymore. But yeah, the Discord, both Discord and this specific Discord, they actually actively forbid it. If it's something that would get you banned in the Discord, it will get you not welcome in my games. So it's not even me just saying that. And actually, the Discord even has a few lines about you're not even allowed to joke about this. Um, Generally speaking, I call it the rule of casual mentions. I know it's fancy, right? But casually mentioning that you're gay or, you sound or present male and you're like, well, I'm going off with my husband. That shouldn't be any excuse for people to be hostile towards you, harass you, ask harassing questions. You can just acknowledge it. Okay. I mean, generally speaking, somebody casually mentions something like that. Say, okay, all right. You don't have to be necessarily supportive or anything. Just don't be an asshole. There's people that are transgender that are currently undergoing gender affirming treatments. This can be a process that goes on for years, and there can always be weird side effects, hormone replacement therapies and stuff. Somebody has a real what you would consider a really messed up voice, or it doesn't match whatever. Yeah, just don't be an asshole towards them. Be sympathetic. This is a person going through a personal journey that the last thing you need is be treated like an asshole. Generally respect when somebody requests a certain pronoun. It's somebody's doing it in an asshole way to just be a jerk. They're literally not usually good. They're not just saying like he or her. They say, "Yeah, you refer to me as master and lord," or some shit like that. I also don't appreciate when people put that in their Discord profile, but I do understand some of them are a lighter in joke to that than others. I am a Discords where if you pulled that even in a very light way, you'd still get your ass kicked out of there. Making assumptions about somebody's sexuality or their gender, maybe because they're the way they're speaking or something, should be voiced. If you have a question, I think in some cases asking her, you girl, you guy, what are your preferred pronouns? But that's actually the more polite way to do it now, especially not in a negative way. You sound like a boy. You sound like a girl. Why voice that? It's not important. Um, and it should be assumed that you're mature enough to just to understand basic social etiquette. I mean, if it would get you punched in the face in real life from somebody, don't say it in the game or Discord or whatever. But that applies to everybody. Um, so yeah. So is this really necessary? I used to ask myself that question honestly, but the more experience I had with dealing with homophobia, transphobia, racism, etc., I understand. Yeah, it very much is. People need this mention. You kind of need to knock it crystal clear into some people sometimes. And frankly, I started doing it again because I actually saw LFG, looking for group advertisements that were very slyly trying to make it clear they didn't want trans players at the very least. Or they'll say, well, I'm straight or something in there. And it seems to fly under the radar of the Discord mods. So, yeah, I'm going to ramp this up. Um, Many people make their far right politics, not even just general conservative politics, far right, really stand out in their profiles. All those people that have a profile of Knights Templars slaughtering a bunch of Muslims with Days Volt and everything. Yeah, I mean, some people are just doing that because it sounds cool, but yeah, you're pushing the idea that you have far right politics and you're making it clear. And frankly, I'm not going to trust you that you're just going to suddenly come in and be tolerant to people who are different at that point. Different discords I know have rules on that sort of thing, and it's the Discord who sets that. But yeah, I have a right to make a general judgment on that. And frankly, I've seen conservative Christian, conservative Muslim profiles that didn't push a far right's politics thing, and they just made it clear, whatever. Everybody should have a positive gaming experience, generally speaking, and your enjoyment of gaming should not come at the cost of somebody else's enjoyment. um, People could throw that back at me and say, well, somebody being gay and being allowed to be gay, well, fuck you. That's my general attitude. I don't heavily swear too much in these videos, but yeah, that's my attitude. So you're discriminating against Masa Seer belief. Well, this is a common thing now because of loopholes people have found, and there's plenty of states that have, well, we have sincere Christian religious beliefs, because guarantee you those laws aren't looking to protect other religions. Well, guess what? Discord and the official Phasmophobia Discord already have rules against that. Or you're already violating those rules by acting like that in my game. So this is the only place I advertise them. But yeah, I mean, religions have all sorts of beliefs. Or they forbid women from playing this game or socializing with unrelated males. Does that mean I have to allow or enforce that too? And yeah, there are actually discords and communities that cater to that. They're only for like men. because in Islam or certain forms of Islam that may be prohibited. Yeah, that does exist. I'm not concerned what happens in those ones. I'm just concerned about what happens in game discords I advertise in. If you're really, but to be frank, if you're really a zealot and you're really that much into it, why are you sitting around playing video games? I mean, go spend if you have a job and then spend the rest of the time, aside from the basics, spreading the good word. That's evangelicalism and Christianity. I know Islam doesn't quite work that way in certain other religions, but be doing stuff like if you have too much free time on your hands, do a couple more prayer cycles. In Islam, there's the required prayer times and how much cycles you're supposed to put into and stuff. That's like the bare ass minimum. I know people do Muslims that do 2, 3, 4 times that. Um, and honestly, if you're that religious, why are you playing an occult video game that depicts cult possessions and ghosts and demons? I grew up with some very religious conservative people, and they would never touch this stuff. I mean, I know some people that if this game was shown on a kiosk in a store somewhere, they wouldn't damn the consequences. They would just take a baseball bat to that computer. So yeah, I get that it varies heavily from religion to religion. Eastern religions work very differently from Abrahamic ones, and so on and so forth. I get that. So people say, "Well, I'm religious and I have discrimination." That does happen. No, I've totally seen that. Um, it's not, in my experience, it's not as common as LGBT right now. I have been into discords where like European style atheism just rules. Anybody who says anything remotely nice or positive about religion is just straight like shit. I give shit to those people too. Trust me about that. But honestly, yeah, if you just have a Bible verse or something, I mean, I love the Bible. I love the great books. And it if you want to put Jesus' life or glory to God, praise be upon Muhammad, so I'm gonna ban you for that. Perfectly fine. Whatever. It doesn't mean LGBT friendly. At least to me, does not mean anti-Christianity Muslim. There are people in the LGBT community and their supporters who believe you have to be anti-religion. But I think that it's too generalized because real life is more complicated. But I do discourage talking about religion or politics in the games, and it is discouraged by the Discord staff as well. And yeah, that includes anti-religious arguments. If an atheist came in and started giving shit, hey, I saw your profile, you believe in Skydad. Yeah, I'd get rid of them too. I mean, what the fuck, man? That's not acceptable. And yeah, I mean, this game is pretty quick. In a span of a minute, you're gonna use that time to grandstand, whatever. And no, people shouldn't have hate on you just because you're like, oh, I'm off to church. I've played with Christians that go 2, 3 times. 2, 3 times a week, and like, oh, now I gotta go. Okay, I've played with Muslims who are like, oh crap, my time is coming up. In fact, once there's been times where I've actually gotten like the prayer cycle just to give an idea. Okay, in 5 minutes is she is the last prayer of the day for Islam, right? And I've counted the minutes out. So okay, I know you need a break in 5 minutes. Take whatever. Yeah, I understand that, and you shouldn't get shit from that. I agree. I don't see it as being phasmophobia because you're not playing for nearly as long as some of the other games I play. But whatever. Um, what if somebody hated on me? I'll kick their ass. They're gone, but they're still breaking other rules. Um, so mind you, what I call casually mentioning is different than going into a sermon. Casually mentions, I'm going to go on this. Yeah, that kind of doesn't belong in the game. I get it. If you want to go off and do it private with somebody, that's fine. But we're here to play a game. Um, and I could go on about all the protected classes, but I'm pretty sure the staff wouldn't appreciate my advertisements being 2 pages long. But yeah, generally speaking, if somebody's a jerk, they're gone. I'll probably boot them before you can even ask. So yeah, just some closing ideas. One of the things is why am I only including 4 letters in that, not more? I do understand some people get very upset if you don't include every single letter and then some. There are people that will include 2 Qs, one for queer, one for questioning. Then there's some people who will take offense that you put the Q in there because queer can be a slur and so on and so forth. In most of the cases with people, it is what it is. It's just shortened. Most people understand what LGBT means. I'm pretty sure nobody legitimately thinks it means bacon, lettuce, and tomato in different ways. Um, and it isn't intentionally. I get that the letter is important. Um, Actually, there's some people who think there should be another T for people who choose spirits, but that's a whole other thing. I'm just trying to keep it short. Most people are, and it's just as lame to make a big deal about that at an advertisement most of the time. But I do get it as important. If you're intersex, you want to, but it'll be respected regardless. Most people are like, "What are you gay?" They kind of don't understand what sexual identity or it means, and especially with the idea of a spectrum. I believe in spectrum so much. I believe in decimals, not integers. But it doesn't matter. But I will say, I have family and friends in real life fall under all that entire spectrum, and I do care about them very much. And I've seen what hatred has done to them. And then, of course, this is a little bit of a joke, but I have had it thrown in my way. Am I just some miserable beta cock virgin who's just jealous of these alpha male mega chads that they don't call them wives or girlfriends, they call them ma women? What the fuck, man? Go back to taking GNC supplements or something. But anyways, I know this is wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but I do feel like I wanted to have something to answer to people that actually do ask me this, and it comes up more than you think. Anyways, have a good one.